Welcome in. Let's check out some records. We're going to start out very strong with this very unassuming box set, Chopin, Poetry of the Piano. Book of the Month Club. Are you kidding? This is the Connoisseur Society. It just looks budget. You'd think it's, but I almost passed it by. But then I remember I read somewhere that Moravec did amazing Chopin work. So I picked it up, flawless discs. I'm just shocked at how good it is. This is actually an original recording. He recorded for Book of the Month Club in 1966, and that's the earliest version that I can find. And all other ones are actually Book of the Month Club or Connoisseur Society, which I believe is kind of the same thing. So if you are not into Chopin, get this disc. The performance is absolutely top notch. If you already have Chopin, this is required for your collection. The nuance, the intimacy, it's so organic and unforced. I'm mostly just listening to the nocturnes. I can't stop listening to them. And it sort of stuns you into a dizzying haze of meditative reflection. Like it just invokes thoughts. It's hard to explain until you hear it. When I think of a Chopin recital, I'm thinking in a blacked out concert hall and there's a spotlight on the pianist and they're wearing a lovely evening gown or a tuxedo. Here, no. I'm just imagining Ivan in his home in a comfy robe with some slippers and some tea at like 2 a.m, just vibing out, and with such skill, such delicate intonation. Like it's just the phrasing and the pacing. You have to hear it, even if you can get it on digital. As mentioned, I think Sony BMG owns it now. So you can get it's out there, and it's just wonderful. And the disc is quiet. The recording is really good. Beautiful piano, a little bit rolled off on the top. Very clean vinyl, very low noise floor, just a amazing sounding disc. So highly recommendable for this one. If you see it, you might pass it by. I probably would have if I didn't recognize the name. I probably would have thought, oh, it's just kind of a budget disc. The Poetry of the Piano, it just sounds like one of those budget represses. This is really good. Okay, the next one here, another just shocking and stunning disc. This is Bartók, Concerto for 2 pianos, percussion, and orchestra. For 2 pianos, we've got János Sándor with the Budapest Symphony Orchestra. And I'm just going to show the names now and not try to just butcher all these names. But yeah, an excellent ensemble of musicians. This is on the Hungaroton label, which I do hold in fairly high regard. Like almost all the discs that I've heard have been a rock solid effort. I do have some kind of noisy copies, but the discs are always stout and they always seem to be original pressings and done to the best of their ability. Like sometimes maybe the recording venue is not the best, but definitely the team puts together some great albums. And I think this is probably one of the best that I've heard. When I heard it, I spot checked and thought, this is amazing. I will listen to it later. And I didn't get to it to about 3 or 4 months. I put it on and I knew there's some spazzy moments in it, but I physically flinched when the crash cymbal came in the first time. Like it was so real and the transients were so fast that it's just shocking how good it is. I would put this up against the best RCAs, the best Living Presence. Like I'm not saying it has the same sonic signature. It has its own, but very good and very punchy. So this is, Hungaroton. Yeah, I'm going to have to look at some other ones that I have. This is really good. So highly recommendable for this one. And there's also this is a whole series. So this is the complete edition. This is posthumous works, I should say. And there's about 12 discs in this series. I'd give them a hard look. If you see them out there and they're in great condition, comes with a whole full booklet with a bunch of information inside. I haven't actually managed to read through it yet, but really good. And yeah, one just small note on Hungaroton. I don't know if they all have a certain smell. It's very particular. Sometimes some records get a bit moldy, but there's a very particular smell to Hungaroton records. Something in the paper that they used, I think, for their inner sleeves. It reminds me, if you've ever been to a low-rise walk-up, the really old ones, like in Manhattan, like in Lower East Side or East Village, they all kind of have the exact same smell. It's very strange. Anyway, onward. Next up, we have this stereophonic London Decca Blue Back. This is Falla, Nights in the Garden of Spain and Rodrigo Concerto for Guitar and Orchestra. This is the National Orchestra of Spain with Argenta. Very nice disc. Very excellent. I should put the date up if I can find it. It has a wonderful, bloomy, tubey sound. In some parts, the orchestra feels a bit fuzzy, like not quite detailed, especially in contrast to the Hungaroton Bartók that I was just listening to. But overall, it's such a pleasurable listen. The sound spread and just the feeling of it, very nice, very natural, very realistic sounding, and sounds, I would say, even better just on speakers. This copy is flawless. It was such a great find. And a little strange too is the cover. Why does the post-it note on the guitar, it has nothing on this copy? Usually there's something written there. It makes no sense like this. I don't know, maybe this is a special promo copy. I don't know. Probably not, but very odd that it's blank there. A great disc. Definitely, wideband London, recommendable, absolutely. And it's a rare treat to find them in such flawless shape. Plays very nice. There's a little bit of noise floor, but you can't let that bother you for these ones. Next up, here's a one you won't see every day. This is a true USSR Pressed Melodiya. We've got Prokofiev, Symphony Number 3, with Rodisvetsky, and also playing is the Moscow Radio Large Symphony Orchestra. We've got Prokofiev on the front. He's looking like he just finished synthesizing a new chemical compound or something. Very scientific. It is a great sounding disc. Really well produced. I would say that the recording venue or something is holding it back. Either the microphones they used or the way they set it up, or I think it's actually probably the venue. It sounds a bit far away. Especially just hearing the that London wideband, it's not as intimate as that at all, but it's a very good pressing and a very nice balanced sound. So you can really get into it. In some of the big explosive parts, it doesn't distort, but it sounds like they pulled the bass back a little bit on those moments, and I can kind of feel that a little bit. There just isn't as much oomph to it as what you would get in a Decca or London. But very, very good. And it's a treasure to get these. This one, again, I know I keep harping on about it, but it's unplayed. I don't know how. I don't know what the date is on this, but it feels old. And it was purchased, I don't know where, but you can see there's a tag at the bottom with 1.67 units of currency. I can't imagine that being rubles. Yeah, it's got sort of the folded tip, so an old recording. Very nice, though. Really, the performance is quite good. I love Prokofiev, but sometimes I struggle understanding the work, and this particular performance is really helping with that. So it sounds correct to me. So really good. And then next up, we have the exact same piece. It's on Melodiya, but this is an Angel Pressed Melodiya. So here's a direct one-to-one comparison. The cover is different. Obviously, the label is different. You'll see these ones that have that look like this. Which is a common one you'll find. Yeah, it's different. It's not terrible. Again, this one unplayed. Well, I can't find any indication. There was a very light dusting of dust, but easily removed, and so it plays very clean. But yeah, you can feel the deficit, the angel touch, I suppose, where it's hard to. It's sort of like a brassy sheen to it. Like the whole mid-tone or mid-range to high end, it sort of has a something it's not good. It's hard, what I mean to say. If I only had this copy, yeah, I could listen to it, I guess, but it's a little fatiguing, to be honest. I don't like the sound, which is a shame because I do have quite a few of these Angel Melodiyas. They seem to be the most common ones that I can find. And the music's great, but yeah, you can really tell the difference. A being them, I'd say, pretty close to night and day. Not noise, just a strange tone to it. Not good. If you have them and you find these and they're cheap, I mean, the performances are usually really good. So, especially for Russian music. Okay, next up, we have a great find. This is a Mercury Living Presence Verdi overtures with Dorati and London. Excellent performance, very lively, a lot of energy, a lot of great playing, really, really well done, and a wonderful recording, of course. It's got that vibrant, upfront sound that Living Presence is known for. The condition of the disc, I will say, is not flawless. There was a couple hairline scratches, very, very light. You can tell they were just scuffs, I guess. A couple of those, and I can see some spindle marks on the inner punch on both sides. So it had been played, but very well cared for. So I thought I'd mention that. It also has the dark, or the deep groove rim on it. It appears to be an American pressing. Now, one thing that's interesting is on one side, it has punches, like actual machine punches for the matrix code, and on the other side, which I'll list here, has it's handwritten. I have to say, the side one with the matrix punch, or that machine punch matrix, it sounds great, but in the really big parts, like on La Forza del Destino, it breaks up. The bottom falls out of it, like it's completely just crumbles away. So it's such a shame, because up to those big moment parts, it has that classic sound. But I'm gonna have a hard time listening to that when I know what's coming, which is quite anticlimactic. That's a shame. Side 2 plays very well straight through. Really good. I mean, obviously there's a bit of a noise floor and some pops and cracks, but these are getting harder and harder to find. So it's not like, you can't really, it's hard to pass them up and try to find that special one. I don't know. Most Mercury Living Presence that I find, they have noise on them. I mean, they sound great anyway on your system, but that's kind of something we kind of have to live with, I feel. Really good though. Overall great on side 2. So I'm just marking it on mine that side 2 is good. Side 1, I can't do that, but I'm still happy to have it. Next up we have Dvořák with the Slavonic dances, Czech Philharmonic with Zdeněk Kosler. This is on Supraphon, the classic blue. It's a 1980 pressing, and it is wonderful. Just an excellent, well-balanced disc, very well recorded. The performance is really good, just lively and very well played. Like, just really, really good. The disc itself is quiet. There's a lot of sort of tubey bloom, even though it's a 1980. Like it feels like it's done on tube gear, and it sort of has that magical glow to it, sort of that, Westrex cutting head with Scully lathe, sort of living stereo, late 50s, early 60s kind of feel to it. It's so good. You're a bit further back in the seats, it feels like a little bit distant, and I think that's because they sort of anchored it off of the kick drum, or not kick drum, the bass drum, which it hits with an incredible impact. Really good. Not too much. Like, it just hits just right. So I think they kind of needed to get that in there, and maybe if they were closer, it would have made it too splashy. That's just my thought. I might be just totally wrong about that, but that's kind of what I thought as to why it was just a little bit back. But what a fun disc. Just great. So great to listen to. So this would be one I would highly recommend it for Supraphon. Czechoslovakian pressing. Yeah, they're out there. I haven't seen this one very often, but I'm really glad I got it. So really good. And while we're on about this particular recording, I have the Pro Arte repressing, 1982 repressing of the exact same work. So that's great to do a one-to-one comparison. Pro Arte started, I think they only started in about 79 or 78, and they didn't have a long run. But they were doing, mostly, they started out as represses, and I think they touched in on a lot of the Supraphon catalog, but also they did do their own. And they came out, trying to do the best work that they could. They were trying to be an audiophile label. One-to-one comparison between the actual original pressing Supraphon, there's a little bit lacking here, but not a heck of a lot. I mean, if I only had this copy, I'd be happy with it, definitely. But absolutely, one-to-one, back-to-back, yeah, there's a little bit of that magic that's lost. A little bit of generational loss there, I think, in the tape. It's a tiny bit brighter, too, this Pro Arte pressing, but it's very good. They still, they pressed it with care. They didn't just slap it together to make a budget re-release. They tried their very best to give the best. So still good. Pro Arte, I look out for them. I respect the label. I actually have a couple sealed ones that I've been meaning to crack open. I have one of their sample discs on vinyl, which has digital and analog on it. So that would be interesting to listen to. So I'll get to it. But yeah, worth it. And why do I have two of the same recording, you may ask? Sometimes I honestly just forget what I have, and I didn't know, because the covers are different, so I just thought, oh, cool, more Slavonic dances, let's just grab it. So that's why. I guess that begs the question, do you even need more Slavonic dances on Supraphon? And the answer would be yes, absolutely, we do. We have another one here. This is the Czech Philharmonic with Karel Senja. So this is a 1972 pressing, again on the blue Supraphon, pressed in Czechoslovakia, of course, and it's a darker blue. I would say the sound is not as good. Sort of has a bit of a shouty, very slightly tinny, like nothing's really distorting, but it's not really as good. It's not as good at all, actually, as the previous two discs that I was talking about. Good, but not great. I think I would pass on this one, actually. I mean, the performance sounds really good, very lively, but I do like the cover, though. Like, it looks like Kodachrome to me. The color is very unique. Yeah, it's got to be Kodachrome film stock there. Okay, the last one here of the Slavonic dances on Supraphon is with the Czech Philharmonic again, and again in 1972. So they released two in 1972. This one is with Václav Neumann, and it's a double disc. It sounds really good. It's on a lighter blue Supraphon, and it is quite good. The pressing is good, but not super excellent. A little bit shouty, a little bit bass shy. Just overall, it doesn't have quite the depth at all that the 1980 pressing has. It's good, and the performance is quite excellent. It really sucks you in. It's a very confident and well-paced performance. I think anytime I've heard Václav Neumann, it's been a great performance. He's a fantastic conductor. And Czech Philharmonic, I mean, they're in their element here. It's not like they're, furrowing their brows and squinting at the score, wondering, like, who's this Dvořák guy? Like, this is their bread and butter. So they play with just such an amazing confidence in all of these discs, actually. So, but I'd say this performance stands out. It's a special one. Okay, so the Zednek Kostler is probably the best out of those sets with the Supraphon and Pro Art. It sounds really great, really a fantastic sound. Let's pit it against another Slavonic dances I have that I hold in high regard, and that is this Dutsche Grammophon. Surprisingly, it's one of the better Dutsche Grammophones that I have. It's Kubliak with the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra. This is a 1975 pressing, just on this yellow style. So 70s style pressing. It is made in Germany. It's very clean. There's a lot of dead wax. The strings don't sound strange. In fact, the whole sound, from the mid-range to the high, it's very open, wonderful stereo spread, and I would say even a little more detail than the Supraphon. The bass, though, it's like it's there, but it's a bit floppy. Like it's not fast. It's not fast on the attack when you hear the cellos. It sounds slow somehow, which I get that with a lot of Dutsche Grammophones, actually. The bass is there, but it's not it seems like there's no mid bass, I guess. It feels like something, I don't know what hertz, maybe like around the 500 hertz somehow got pulled down with like a parabolic EQ or something. But overall, though, I have to say that this disc does sound good. It's a testament that not all the German pressed Dutsche Grammophones from this era are bad. Some are actually good. So this is still a recommendable, excellent performance with Kubliak. Really good disc. If I was to compare both of them, I think I would still actually give it to the Supraphon. I think it's still a better overall sound and a great performance. So, yeah. I just noticed actually on the Václav Neumann Czech Philharmonic, on the label it says something about Teldec. So co-production, it's in Czech, but it says something about production in Teldec. So on that 1972, didn't know that. Okay, interesting. One thing I'll say too is if you find yourself really wondering about performances and you want a good performance, I think a fair strategy would be playing to the strengths of the orchestra by way of the origin of the orchestra. For instance, we have Bartók, who's Hungarian, and here he's being played by the Budapest Symphony Orchestra. They know it very well, and it's a fantastic performance. Another one here, the Prokofiev, played by the Moscow Radio Large Orchestra. So, they know it. They've played it so many times. It's not foreign work to them, so it's a very natural sound. Also with the Slavonic dances, with the Czech Philharmonic, like they must have played it probably 100 times, and to standing ovations. So anyway, it's something to think about. Okay, well, I just had this one nearby, so I thought I will tell you about this one. This is by far the best Angel vinyl record that I have. It's Elgar and Walton Marches with Adrian Boult and London Philharmonic. It defies logic. Don't go chasing angels thinking they're going to be great. You will have your heart broken. You will be disappointed. You will waste money. You'll waste effort. Just, most of them do sound bad, especially from this era in the 70s. They're really bad. American Pressed, Angel, no, just everything bad. But this one is, I keep coming back to it and listen to it. I'm like, it can't be good. And it sounds wonderful. I would say it is audiophile grade. It's round, it's balanced, it has impact. There's vivid detail. It's a really great sounding disc. So try to remember this one. It's got the London Bridge in the background and the ships, and it's, pomp and circumstance. This one, really good. And it's on this Angel, like, I don't know, Fire Angel or Orange Angel label, which have some really bad pressings on these, but not this one. So it's just one to look out for. It's really good. Yeah, it's just listening more to this record, and like what's so surprising too is that it's such bombastic music. These pieces, like they're punchy and they're big, which usually if you think like, Angel of this vintage, or even some of the RCAs or the Columbias, like once you start getting into big pieces, with big orchestras, they just fall apart. But this one doesn't. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention too, it's quadraphonic. So that might be part of the equation as well. It's SQ, which I believe is the best kind of quadraphonic, although I should know that. But anyhow, so quadraphonic Angel from this vintage, maybe that's something. I'll keep an eye out for them. Okay, so another 1975 record. This is a BASF. It's Mozart, Symphony Number 32, Concerto for Violin and Orchestra, also Symphony Number 38 in D major, and really interesting, Lamero Saro Constante. That has Edith Mathis as soprano. Now, this is the Mozarteum Orchestra Salzburg. It's Leopold Hager for conductor, and there's solo violin by Karlheinz Frank. I almost didn't want to buy it because, firstly, it's in flawless shape, so it's hard for me to pass that up, but I didn't like the timings. If you look on the back, oh my, side A is almost 29 minutes, and side 2 has almost 31 minutes. That seems a bit much, but side 1, it's a bit grainy. I mean, it's a great recording. It does sound good generally. I would give it, 7 or 8 out of 10. Like it's a good sounding disc, no doubt, but a bit of grain. So if I'm really listening, it would kind of grate on me a bit. Side 2, I don't hear that grain at all. And on Lamero Saro Constante with the soprano, it sounds wonderful. Very open, excellent reverb, no grain at all. The orchestra is blended very beautifully, excellent venue. So really, really nice. So BASF, yeah, this is one of their better ones. I'm really happy I got this. It's a very pleasurable listen. I must say though, it needs a bit of bass. It's a little bass shy, but once that's added in a bit, if you have an EQ, just crank it up like 3 dB, and the bass, perfect, really nice. So an excellent disc. This is a bit of a strange one. It's Copland's greatest hits, Bernstein in New York, Copland himself with London, and Ormandy in Philadelphia, sort of like a mix disc here. I had set it aside as an interesting disc like probably a year or two ago, and I haven't revisited it. It's absolutely unplayed, very smooth, very, very quiet vinyl. Like I've been searching for dates, and I don't believe that this is a 1970 pressing. It just can't be. It is a Canadian pressing, but there's no way that it can be 70. It's just so quiet. The vinyl is way, way too quiet. Like nothing at all. And the sound is like, it's a bit frustrating because it's good in some places. The bass is really incredible, like amazing bass response. I just recorded a bit here. Like you can hear this at the beginning of Fanfare for Modern Man. And yeah, like it's coming through. But in other parts, it's hard to put your finger on what, but it just sounds wrong. I'm sure it's the pressing, something in the pressing. I'm almost quite confident that the tape, there's more on the tape. Although in some of the places on actually, on the Ormandy, Philadelphia Fanfare for Modern Man, it sounds like a digital clip. It's very hard. Like if you ever heard digital clipping, it's actually really a harsh clip. So it sounds like that, and that kind of would explain why there's kind of something to the sound. There's a good decent stereo spread, and that's usually a good indication that it is digital if the spread feels smaller. And this one doesn't feel that small, but I do suspect that possibly this is a much later pressing and they used a digital delay line in the cutting process. That would explain, and they did that wrong and clipped, which is kind of embarrassing, because hearing clipping on an analog tape, maybe you could get away with it, but there's no way you couldn't hear it. So that's a big mistake there. But the pieces themselves are really fantastic. And like every time I listen to a Copland, I just come to the conclusion that there's not enough Copland in my collection. Like, he's such a great composer, and I truly believe he'll go down in history, and people will be listening to him 200-300 years from now. I mean, he's just great. He's so lyrical, so lively, and excellent orchestration. So the pieces themselves, I would highly recommend. This disc, it does look budget with these greatest hit thing, and so yeah, I wouldn't spend more than $1 or $2 on the disc just to hear the pieces. But yeah, or digital would be good too. But really, really good pieces here. All right, another CBS. This is a double disc, German pressed. I don't have the exact date. If I can find it, I will put it up. But it's German press of older Columbia, like CBS Columbias. And it's Stravinsky with Leonard Bernstein and New York Philharmonic. It's got the Firebird, it's got Petrushka, and it has the Rite of Spring. Now, the Petrushka is a 1969 repress here. The Rite of Spring is actually 1957, so that's really early stereo. And 1958 for the Firebird. Well, they sound really good. The vinyl is very quiet. Again, the main reason I got it is it was unplayed, like not even little specks of dust. I don't know how it kept this long without getting any dust or anything. I don't think whoever owned this didn't play it. It sounds really good. Very articulate, excellent detail. It doesn't break up at all in the big moments. I mean, that's just testament to the wonderful German pressing. It does sound a bit brassy, but that's kind of Stravinsky, like in those big moments. It's a lot of, the brass feels too far forward to me. It would be nice to hear more of the lower register instruments during those big explosions. That's me personally, but really, really good. Really excellent. I'm so glad I got this. Very unfortunate about the cover. My goodness. It's a double gatefold. It kind of opens up in a strange way from the top. But I mean, anyway, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that. That just doesn't make you want to pick up the album and take it home, that's for sure. But excellent. And, German Pressed CBS, these red ones, yeah, they're on my radar. I should mention, too, the Petrushka is the 1947 version. And I do like what Bernstein did with it. And that says something, because I really imprinted on the Abato and London. Like, I listened to that so many times that to me, that's my kind of benchmark. Whichever one you really get enchanted with. But this holds up. This is a great performance. So really good stuff here. One thing I forgot to mention too, like on the Petrushka, where there's a lot of moments where there's lots of flute and percussion. The spread is so wonderful and organic and sparkly. There's a wonderful high register to it that it's just enchanting. So it's really puts you into the moment. Very, very nice on those moments. Okay. We've got Schubert Unfinished Symphony and incidental music to Rosamund. This is Paul Kletzky and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra on a HMV. Not even made in England. This is made in Great Britain. So we're going back a little bit. It does say 1959 on the back. Recording first published in 1959, although I would assume that it was probably recorded a bit earlier, and they don't give any indication of that. It's an old feeling disc, even from the cover. It's got the really glossy finish with the tip over style, the older style on the back you can see here. And the disc itself, it's not mint. There's a couple surface scratches and just general kind of dust. It's been well kept, but not perfect. And I mean, a disc like this, you just gotta take it if you want it, because it's probably not going to find these too often anymore. Really excellent performance. Very lively, very confident, and just so smooth. It's an excellent listen, although probably better on speakers than headphone, because there's definitely a noise floor, and in order for them to get the bigger moments, I think it's just like they just set the level a bit lower, so you can hear the noise floor. It's an older disc, so you kind of have to accept that, and it's mono, obviously, but really, really nice to have, and an excellent performance. Very nice to hear this style, so I'm happy with it. Yeah, I was rummaging around trying to find this Copland album I have. I can't find it. It has a painting of a pistol with female legs on it. I know, but I just can't find it. But anyway, looking around, I found this other Dvořák Slavonic dances, which I hadn't heard in quite a while. It's George Sell and the Cleveland Orchestra on an absolutely mint, brand new looking Columbia. I don't have a date on it, but I would assume it's around mid-70s, and I would also assume that it is an original pressing. It sounds really good, actually, especially for a Columbia of this vintage. These ones, they're quite hit and miss, and usually miss with the bright orange on the kind of brownish gray background label. This one is an exception, though. It's really good. It sounds quite smooth, very clean. The bass is a little loose, like not a lot of heavy or like sharp impact to the bass, but it sounds good. The orchestra hall sounds quite big, quite large, but it suits it. It suits the way they play. The performance itself is quite nice. It's different. It's definitely raucous. It makes me think more of like a large beer hall kind of performance, very swingy and a lot of swagger. So, but very, very good. Maybe not quite as skilled as the Czech Philharmonic, but they certainly no one told them that they weren't amazing, so they just let it all hang out, and it sounds good when it all comes together. So a very good disc overall, and also the placement of the orchestra, like the way it was recorded, is very good. It's very pleasing. The just the whole feel of how the orchestra feels, and how that translates to the disc. So a very good disc, actually, surprisingly good for a Columbia of this vintage. Yeah, quite good. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And yeah, respect to George Sell for just letting the orchestra go wild. Like, you can tell he just stepped back and let them do their thing, and that it really came through here. So good job. Okay, so I did find this Copland, Billy the Kid Suite, and Appalachian Spring with Eugene Ormandy and the Philadelphia Orchestra. It's a 1970 pressing. This is a Canadian pressing, and it says on the disc and on the back that it is made from the master recordings, owned and controlled by RCA. So it's a regional repress, but not very good. It sounds shouty and brash without distorting. The frequencies are just kind of wrong sounding. There is decent bass to it, but it just doesn't come together, and it's not pleasurable. I find it distracting. It's not good overall. Like, you could hear it for the performance, but I'm quite sure the CD would sound better. So 1970, I would think, actually, I thought maybe this would be on a White Dog, but I think the White Dogs were only on US pressings. So it's on a thick, like, the disc is not thin. It says Dynagroove on the back. That might be part of it. It doesn't say Dynagroove anywhere else, just small on the back. And it's really not a floppy disc at all. I really wouldn't recommend this one at all. And yeah, on the back, it shows some ballet action going on there. And I like how the clothing stylist actually went with a really authentic version. Because if you were to go into like a saloon in the Wild West, in the 1800s, I think this is exactly what they would look like, a young couple out on the town. That's pretty accurate. But yeah, I'd pass on this one. Okay, yeah, I didn't want to leave on a sour note, so, let's get out there into the weeds here. This disc is Vivaldi Four Seasons Collegium Arium on original instruments with Franz Joseph Mayer conducting. This is on the Parnass label. This is the only time I've ever seen Parnass, so I grabbed it just to see how it sounded, and I'm glad I did. My goodness, what a difference between that RCA Copland. Oh, it's just heaven. It sounds so good. Perfectly balanced. It's robust and detailed. There's such a vivid imagery, too, to the position of all the instruments. It's just exciting to listen to. The performance is great, too, and it is on original instruments, but it doesn't have like a screechy or, wobbly kind of tone. It sounds really good. Really excellent. So this is a German pressed disc from 1977, and it is, all the text on the disc is in German, so it's a little difficult to discern what's going on with the production, but I did notice actually on the disc itself, on the label, in very small print, it says, well, in German, I'm guessing it translates to production by Harmonia Mundi of Germany. So German Harmonia Mundi, which is excellent, and it makes so much sense. They definitely deal with ancient music, with historically interpreted performances, Harmonia Mundi, so it would make sense that they would do it for this Parnass label. And it shows. It's wonderful. I would say it sounds as good as a Harmonia Mundi. Really, really great, and highly recommendable if you do happen to see it out there. It's not budget, that's for sure. Very, very rich sound. So excellent. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time. Thanks. Bye.